Yo, and it looked like ESPN just told the shocking truth as to why Sandy Brondello was let go by the New York Liberty. Guys, for this one here.
So ESPN just dropped a huge bomb about Sandy Brondello getting fired, and honestly, fans are totally shocked. I mean, we're talking about the Liberty's winningest coach, someone who literally just brought them a championship. Suddenly out the door. Now we know the real reasons. And trust me, they're wild, they're messy, and this whole situation could change everything for the WNBA's future.
The New York Liberty have let go Sandy Brondello. Well, in their terms, they will not renew her contract. In our eyes, they parted ways. She was fired, essentially. But not as bad as being fired, I guess. But that's just how we talk out here. Nonetheless, I'm shocked. She's been a coach there for 4 seasons. You look at the past 3 seasons, she made it to the finals in her 2nd season. She won the finals in her 3rd season, and they lost in round 1 this year. Outside looking in, you look at this franchise and you see that's a successful franchise. New York is a powerhouse in the W right now. So what is the issue? What is the front office?
Okay, so the news just hit, and ESPN is the one laying it all out for us. Sandy Brondello, who literally made history as the Liberty's most successful coach and brought them a championship, is gone. Just 1 year later. Fans were definitely rubbing their eyes, thinking it had to be a mistake. But nope, this is real, and it really shows how cutthroat WNBA front offices can be when ego and power take over. Let's really dig into what ESPN found, because this goes way beyond just basketball. It's about politics, serious pressure, and a franchise that thinks it's bigger than the entire league. And get this, ESPN says this wasn't some snap decision after a tough playoff run. It was actually building for ages. Seriously, Brondello could have been out last year if she hadn't won that title. It was championship or bust. No joke.
Winning the title, what exactly led to the parting of ways between the Liberty and Sandy Brondello here?
Well, Malika, I know you guys talk about this a lot in the NBA and in other sports, but it was really championship or bust for New York and for Sandy Brondello. And in fact, if they hadn't won the championship last year, we might have been having this conversation a year ago, which is maybe a little startling to fans outside, given how, excuse me for those noises, for how impactful she'd been for that franchise. But that is how bullish this organization is in New York, and how their ownership and management really are looking to just continue upon that success that they are.
Now, I gotta ask, how does any of that even make sense? You bring in a coach, she completely rebuilds your whole franchise, takes you to places you've never been, wins more games than any Liberty coach ever, and she actually wins you a championship. And what's her reward? A pink slip. Come on, that's like going to a fancy restaurant, devouring a perfect steak, and then sending the plate back because it wasn't warm enough. It just doesn't add up, and ESPN totally backed that up.
To have. And so I think for New York moving forward, I would expect them to really, again, be bullish in who they go after. We know that they are a WNBA franchise that invests a lot in a lot of resources, a lot of financial capital into these decisions. So I think it wouldn't be shocking, though, if they decide to go after maybe someone in the NBA, someone that we might be a little bit more of a non-traditional hire. I do think Sandy Brondello has a great shot of getting hired again. We know what she has done in this league. We know that there's openings in Seattle, for example, in addition to the 2.
So, the Liberty front office, they're being called bullish. Basically, these are Wall Street owners who treat a sports team like their investment portfolios. If the numbers aren't absolutely perfect, they just dump the asset and go get a new one. They're not playing the long game here. They want constant dominance, non-stop, and if you can't deliver it on command, they'll find someone else who they think can. But here's where it gets even crazier. Brondello wasn't just winning, she was doing it while fighting huge battles completely out of her control. Think playoff injuries, players not at 100%, and a roster that really lacked depth. Yet, she still coached them all the way to the finals and won the whole damn thing. And somehow, the front office managed to spin all that into a negative.
I'm down with ESPN to give us an update as to why Sandy Brondello will let go. And what's crazy about all of this in this interview that I'm about to show you guys is that Sandy Brondello was supposed to be fired last year, but she actually won the WNBA championship.
Listen, according to ESPN's insider, Alexa Philippou. Management basically made up their minds before the playoffs even started. It was title or bust. Seriously. They decided that if New York didn't win back-to-back championships, Sandy was out. Just let that idea sit with you for a second.
New York Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year. They made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach Sandy.
I mean, she literally just gave them their first championship in franchise history, and they were judging her on whether she could repeat it immediately. The bar was set so ridiculously high, failure was basically guaranteed. It's almost funny, right? Other teams out there would kill for a coach with her resume. 40 playoff wins, titles with multiple franchises, known for getting players to buy in without being a tyrant. But New York just looks at all that and shrugs, saying, yeah, thanks, but we're moving on. It's like firing a chef after they get you your first Michelin star because the garnish on one dish wasn't Instagram ready. And the way they handled it? Brutal. ESPN made it super clear this wasn't some respectful farewell. The Liberty announced it fast, put out a super bland thanks for your service statement, and immediately started looking for her replacement. No celebration, no parade. Just a cold, we wish her the best. Now let's talk about why this is bigger than just one coach. This really shows the WNBA's weird obsession with chasing big NBA-style headlines, but they don't even have the same foundation. The Liberty are acting like the Lakers firing a coach who didn't three-peat. Newsflash, you're not the Lakers. You're in a league that's still fighting for market share, still trying to get casual fans to watch stars like Caitlin Clark. You need stability, not this kind of chaos.
Yeah, you never want to see a player get injured, and a player like Caitlin and coming back has had a few injuries this year. She's a great player. It would have been good for our crowd to see her, but hopefully they get to see her after post All-Star. We get to play them again. As for the All-Star, I'm excited to get to know her a little bit. I think that's the part of the All-Star. I just don't want to coach players that you haven't coached before and get them to know them a little bit and enjoy the whole celebration.
And speaking of Caitlin Clark, we can't ignore how this whole situation connects to her. Caitlin has totally shifted the power in the WNBA. She's in her second year, not just rookie hype anymore, but the face of the league, right? Everything she does gets magnified. So when someone like Sandy Brondello praises her, or even just acknowledges her impact, it makes some of the old guard really uncomfortable. All of a sudden, the politics of who gets credit start mattering more than actually winning games. See, ESPN hinted at this, even if they didn't say it outright. Brondello being open about praising Caitlin and recognizing her effect on the league just rubbed certain people the wrong way. The Liberty really want their own stars, like Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, to be the undisputed faces of the team, and maybe even the league. Having their coach recognize Caitlin's huge cultural impact, that doesn't exactly fit the we're the center of the universe brand the Liberty have been pushing. And this is where it gets really spicy. Breanna Stewart only signed a one-year deal. That means she could totally walk away. Just imagine, the Liberty fire their championship coach to try and prove some weird point, and in doing so, they alienate the very star who brought them so much credibility. ESPN even floated the idea that Stewart could jump ship. If that happens, New York goes from being a powerhouse to a full-blown rebuild overnight. That's the insane gamble they're taking. Meanwhile, players all over the league are speaking up. Becky Hammon, for example, flat out said she wasn't a fan of the move. That's a huge deal. When one of the most respected coaches in the game basically calls your decision terrible without actually saying terrible, you probably need to rethink things. But the Liberty aren't listening. They're too busy acting like chess masters when they're really just flipping the whole board over. Then there's the huge question, who replaces Sandy? ESPN suggested the Liberty might even look outside the WNBA, maybe at NBA assistants. Because, sure, nothing screams stability like giving a stacked veteran roster to a coach who's never even been in a WNBA locker room. That's like giving someone keys to a Formula One car when they've only driven go-karts. It's reckless, but hey, New York loves those big splashy moves. The crazy irony in all this, Sandy Brondello is almost certainly going to land on her feet. Seattle has an opening, expansion franchises are looking. She's way too respected to be out of a job for long. So the Liberty aren't just losing a coach, they're basically handing one of their rivals a championship-caliber leader. Can you even imagine Sandy going to Seattle and coaching them to a title? That would be the ultimate revenge, and ESPN would have a field day with it. Now let's quickly look back at the Liberty's actual record under Brondello that ESPN laid out. In 2022, they were 16-20, which was a rebuild year. Then in 2023, they exploded to 32-8 and made the finals. In 2024, they did it again, 32-8, and actually won the title. And in 2025, they lost in the first round with a 27-17 record, mainly because of injuries. That resume gets you fired? Come on. Coaches with half that success get contract extensions and literally statues outside the arena. This is exactly why fans are absolutely furious. The firing doesn't make any basketball sense. It only makes sense if you think the Liberty front office cares more about looking good than actually winning. They want to be the glamour franchise, the face of the WNBA, the team that just flexes its money and power. But instead of building on solid stability, they've just introduced total chaos. And chaos? That's almost never a winning strategy. Think about the message this sends to the locker room. Players are supposed to trust management, buy into the system, believe that hard work actually gets rewarded. Instead, they're watching their coach, the one who helped them break records, just tossed aside like yesterday's news. That's incredibly demoralizing. And if you think athletes don't care about stuff like this, you're dead wrong. These are pros. They absolutely know when the front office is playing games. And let's not forget the fans either. ESPN's coverage showed how completely shocked everyone was. Social media blew up with Liberty fans calling it betrayal, total nonsense, even sabotage. Some even said they won't support the team until ownership changes. That's how badly this has backfired. The Liberty thought they were making this bold, decisive move. Instead, they just alienated their entire fan base. Now here's the absolute kicker. This isn't just about Sandy Brondello as an individual. This is about how the WNBA itself handles success. Too often, the league just undermines itself. Instead of celebrating growth and stability, it chases drama. Instead of letting stars coexist, it tries to force rivalry. And instead of really building for the long term, it goes for these quick fixes. That's why this firing feels so much bigger than just one franchise. It's a huge warning sign. And that's exactly why ESPN's report hit so hard. Because it truly exposed the truth. Sandy wasn't fired because she failed. She was fired because the Liberty front office wanted absolute perfection, total control, and a spotlight that never ever dims. And in chasing that spotlight, they might have just dimmed their own future. So where does this all leave us? With a league that just watched its supposed model franchise completely implode over ego. With a coach who absolutely deserved better already getting calls from other teams. And with fans wondering if the Liberty just sabotaged their own future all for the sake of appearances. ESPN's report really laid bare what went down, and the Liberty now look more fragile than ever. Sandy Brondello delivered history, and she still got thrown aside. Fans deserve way better than boardroom politics, disguised as basketball decisions.